The situation leading to this presentation format is none that favors togetherness. It raises questions about what it means to not being able to be together, and it also shows the need to act collectively and to look after each other. Collective change is also what is needed in face of the ecological crisis. Our lifestyles need to change, we need to reduce our impact on the planet, and we need to rethink our behavior. The future will have to be a future of scarcity, reducing convenience and wastefulness. There are already many approaches to change existing, yet they are based on antagonization and polarization. Existing approaches fail to produce a positive spirit needed for change. I conclude that the attitude to changing needs to change. Instead of being based on guilt and fear, approaches to change need to become pleasurable. Therefore, I promote the approach of pleasure in scarcity. Opposed to individualism, I see potential in collective approaches. Collective approaches seem capable to affect change from top and bottom level. As the root of collectivity, togetherness needs to be fostered. Togetherness is the base for negotiating common grounds, discussing positions, and crossing borders. My guiding question is, assuming that the future is less convenient and resources are scarce, how can we find pleasure in scarcity? My material research focuses on creating functional objects that are based on a materiality of scarcity to create pleasurable situations that encourage togetherness and well-being. After weeks of gathering people around my tools, I turned my attention from the tool itself to the togetherness these objects create. My new focus is to create tools for togetherness, as opposed to creating tools for autonomy. These tools have the capacity to act as catalysts and become centerpieces that succeed in gathering people. It became clear to me that it is not about promoting individuality or autonomy. Instead, it is about promoting collective approaches by using very little resources for creating pleasure. Since midterms, I again did several tests in different contexts. The first context was the convivial space in Paris, where I had built the neighborhood oven last year. Therefore, I constructed this tool to bake crepe to be able to enter the Flixbus to Paris. A focus lay on mobility and rapid assembly. While the trip to Paris went well, wet wood and extreme rain conditions made it unusable. Whereas this rocket stove did not fire up, the pizza oven did. Even under such conditions, tools like this succeed in gathering people, making them join forces and work together.
Wow. Wow.
Staging the crepe maker in Eindhoven showed me that the object's look of improvised assembly allows curious experiment and tryout. People were eager to take over different jobs. Jan Micha liked to watch the fire, Mathilde and Marta were making pancakes. Coltrane and Charlie Lee were trying to figure out how the object functions. Basically, I was able to give the tool out of hands, with people collaborating around it to feed each other, thereby improvising and learning how to use it. Being mostly focused on producing food so far, my tests resulted in mutual care, preparation, and exchange. Refocusing, I asked myself whether this materiality of scarcity still makes sense when the objective is actually togetherness. Therefore, I built an oven to compare, based on the same materials, but without certain restrictions of my methodology. Not being restricted by low-tech principles of construction, I was able to weld, repaint, and polish it to create a refined aesthetic. Visually comparing it to its counterpart, it is apparent that by refining the object I distorted associations of scarcity related to its parts. The refined object is easily accepted and can easily be understood as an oven. On the contrary, the assembled object creates a distinct feeling of irritation, evoking curiosity and questioning, leaving space for imagination. Visually, it works better as a centerpiece. Testing it in direct comparison showed that even though stability and functionality increased, efficient use and usability are secondary for its purpose. To fulfill the function of a gathering object, the object based on a materiality of scarcity states that for togetherness no smooth product or specialized techno solution is needed. If we go towards a scarce future, we need to use what we have and we need to be able to understand it. Therefore, I promote accessible materiality based on assembly, informed by principles of low-tech. Rather than positioning itself as a fixed and finished object, it underlines the capacity to augment, change, repair, and improve, an ongoing iteration which I see as an important part of my design process. Modularity is inherent to the materiality and assembly principles these tools are based on. In light of their variety of functionalities, this makes sense. Currently being focused on making food, the tool has the capacity to change, grow, and adjust to adapt to different functions and contexts. It may gather people to eat together, cook together, sit together, warm up like in a sauna together, or dance around the fire together. In order to be able to communicate the value and function of these tools, I consider a video documentation as a tool to show that it works and how it works.
Look at that, it's crunchy.
In the bigger picture, I aim to create a video that allows me to reach out to places for them to invite me. My recent tryouts in documenting it myself don't work yet, as they fail to transmit an atmosphere and lack a storyline. Moreover, as long as I am part of the situation, it becomes hard to document it myself. My rough planning is to find a context, design for that context, and stage my design in that context. An open question remains where this may be. I see two opportunities for that. Either staging it in a favorable environment, like a convivial cultural space, like the one in Paris. Or I place it in a radically different environment, like a high-tech fair, for example. Whereas the convivial context would presumably facilitate togetherness by already attracting a certain target group, the opposing context may result in more interesting reactions by speaking to people with a different background and attitude. While the convivial space would grant a certain security for togetherness to happen easily, the high-tech context may result in rejection or non-acceptance. It is much harder to enter it and to succeed there, yet I believe that the potential impact may be bigger there. I'm wondering about your opinion on that matter.